Hey, what's up, guys? And welcome back to a brand new Pick a Side live reaction. We are here after the ending of a playoff series. The Timberwolves took care of business. They beat the Warriors in 5 games. They now advance to their second conference finals in back-to-back years. And the Celtics extended their series with the Knicks on the back of Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Peyton Pritchard and Luke Cornett. We're going to talk about all that. If you guys notice, new intro at the very beginning of the videos. Let me know what you guys think of that. But we have the crew here, John, Mr. Dells. Probably soon we'll be back in the studio for an episode because the playoffs won't be going on every night, and we'll get the full crew back for that. But how you guys doing?
Doing good, man. That intro is clean. I would like maybe a Celtic player in there, maybe a Jet in there. But got Lamar Jackson. Can't complain about that. The intro is clean, man. How you doing, John?
I'm doing great. I had a good day, some exciting basketball. I enjoyed the first game, and yeah, I thought the intro was fantastic. So I'm really pretty excited to be here today.
No Steelers, I didn't see, unless I missed it.
Not quite sure if there were any.
I don't think there's a Steeler worthy
TJ
being
Watt
on there. TJ Watt, that's good.
TJ
That's a
Watt.
good one. But I think the guys that were there, Joe Burrow, Mahomes, you saw he was
Yeah, it was a
very
lot of your guys.
front and center with
A
Anthony
lot of your
Edwards,
guys.
front and center, Joe
Nuts.
Burrow. I didn't forget about Lamar Jackson. Dells, I gave some love to you. I gave some love to you. I gave some
Appreciate
love
that.
to Riv with the Josh Allen hype. I gave some love to him.
Any Broncos?
No Broncos. I don't
No
think so.
Broncos.
No.
No PS2.
Went with superstar players and quarterbacks. No defensive players or wide receivers. Maybe Justin Jefferson would have been good in there. But we have a lot to talk about. And I think we can start with the Timberwolves. Take care of business, beating the Warriors, advancing to their second conference finals in a row. They have been an existing franchise for 36 years. The Timberwolves in 31 years without Anthony Edwards have won Western Conference Finals appearance. With Anthony Edwards in 5 seasons, they have 2 conference finals appearances. They already have more playoff wins with Anthony Edwards in 5 years than they did without him in 31 years. Anthony Edwards is the definition of a franchise-changing generational superstar. It is rare that a player goes in to a dysfunctional organization and completely shifts the culture. And that's what Anthony Edwards has done, improving his game every year, becoming one of the premier scorers in the league, improving his three-point shooting. He made a historic leap, and he's now one of the best shooters in the NBA right now. He had a historic three-point shooting season. The playmaking leap. In the playoffs, in 40% of his games, he has had 8 assists or more. He just had a career-high 12 assists in a closeout Game 5 against Golden State. And he has made the conference finals in back-to-back years with a different secondary star. Last year it was Cat. This year was Julius Randle. Julius Randle, I believe, is a great player in his own right. But I think you are heavily mistaken if you don't think that Anthony Edwards hasn't played a part in this resurgence that we've seen from Randle and the confidence that he has given Randle and advocating for him and believing in his teammates. I think Edwards is the type of player that makes everybody around him better. And the Timberwolves, we're witnessing the best era of their franchise in history, and Edwards is spearheading it.
Yeah, this was a great win, of course, for the Wolves. We'll talk about the Warriors in a bit, but just to start off with the Wolves, I mean, you praised Anthony Edwards, and deservedly. He had taken a leap this season, certainly as a shooter, as you mentioned, and playmaking definitely has improved. But as much credit as Ant deserves, and he deserves a lot of credit, this game and this series really was a Timberwolves victory, right? Like, this was more than just Anthony Edwards throughout this series, right? Julius Randle was fantastic. Jaden McDaniels continued to be a really serviceable player, giving you about 14 points per game in this series. And in this closeout game, it was everyone, right? Julius Randle gave you 29 points. I think they had 6 players scored double-digit points. Rudy Gobert was as impactful as it gets really throughout this entire series, specifically in this game. But this was the Timberwolves as a whole, just really being able to come together, surviving a couple of weird Anthony Edwards games to start off the series too, right? They start the series off 1-1 and kind of has to figure out this Warriors defense that gives him a tough time to start the series. But as the games go on, as it progresses, he gets more and more comfortable. You shouted out some of the assist numbers, had 12 tonight, which is, one of the best. Or is that his career high? Did you mention?
In the playoff career high for him.
A little too many turnovers for me. Got to clean up some of those, but still, you definitely see the improvement. He's not just making year after year, but game after game in this series, right? Like, again, like I mentioned, those first couple of games, it's like, hold on, like this is a couple of games that Ant's got to figure out. Is this Warriors defense, zones they're throwing at him? Of course, they have multiple great defenders that they're able to throw, a lot of smart defenders that they have on that team. But as the series went on, Anthony Edwards got more comfortable, the efficiency got better, and then you saw the scoring really start to come along with that. So, overall, when you look at his numbers, what he put up in this series, he gave you 26 a night, 44% from three, 48% from the field, 5.5 assists per game, nearly 8 rebounds. He was awesome. He was phenomenal. And this next series coming up for them, whether it's the Thunder or the Nuggets, it's going to be a real tough series. And it's going to be a different look, certainly than what you've got in these previous two. But I think what you've seen over these last 2 years with the Minnesota Timberwolves, regardless of, it's Cat, it's Julius Randle, Anthony Edwards is prime time. And he's ready for whatever moment, whatever team is coming his way. I know last season, right, they got past the Suns in 4 games, and a lot of people didn't pick them to win that series. But I don't know if anyone picked them against the Denver Nuggets, the defending champions at that time. And Ant was phenomenal in that series, right? Of course, he got help from, Cat and Gobert, and they did their thing, but Anthony Edwards was still great. So I have no doubt in my mind, whether it's the Thunder or the Nuggets he faces in the next round, he's going to be ready for that challenge. But it's an historic time to be a Timberwolves fan, right? You threw out some of those numbers. This is a franchise that historically has not been able to put things together, or at least not be able to put, multiple consecutive seasons of being like really high-level championship contending teams. You get Anthony Edwards, all he needs is about 3 or 4 years in the league, get him a all-star type caliber player next to him, some great role players. Of course, Rudy Gobert, that big trade they made a couple of years ago. And now you're looking at a team that feels like a perennial championship contender. So the fact that he's doing this too at 23, 24 years old, he's gaining all of this playoff experience. Like, he's not going to even be in his prime for another 3 or 4 years. So just credit to the Timberwolves taking care of business as well, right? Like, this was a game in the fourth. There was like a 12-point game. The Warriors were making a little bit of a run. They could have easily let this slip away, but you close it in 5, you get some extra rest. And like I said on the last podcast that we had last night, I think Thunder and Nuggets go 7. So you're going to have a rest advantage over a team that's going to be coming off a brutal series. You get out of here in 5, get to a couple extra days of game plan, get rest, practice. So great job by the Timberwolves taking care of business. Don't even let Steph Curry even think about coming back in a game 6, even though it seemed like a long shot. So credit to the Wolves. It's a really good series win for them.
Absolutely. It felt like today was a good example of not only Minnesota taking care of business and the series in 5 games, but I feel like the underrated part and the overlooked part about this team is what Anthony Edwards has provided and kind of inspiring hope in his teammates. I felt like coming into the season, a lot of people are skeptical as to how Julius Randle would fit. Today, he missed 1 2-point look, was 11 of 12 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3-point land. And there's some things this team can clean up. They did have 20 turnovers today. It feels like the culture, which has been kind of provided by their star players, allowed everyone else to step up. You look at Jaden McDaniels in the second half of the season. And then 2 players who have struggled so far this postseason, Mike Conley and Dante DiVincenzo, played a lot better today. The 2 guys go 6 of 10 from three-point land, and both of them were making good plays off the dribble, being good playmakers. And I feel like that's what's allowed this team to continue growing as the season's gone on. It feels like right now they still haven't reached their true ceiling just yet. Of course, without Steph, the Warriors haven't really given them the best test that you're going to see this postseason, but I felt like today was a good example of them taking care of business, now allowing this game to go to 6, the series to go to 6, I should say, unlike the Knicks series, of course. And that does matter going to the conference finals, added rest. And I think it was really important today that you saw some of those role players really step up. And when they are hitting their shots, there's really not a weakness with this Wolves team. And I think we said something similar last night with Indiana, but I think the difference is when you have Anthony Edwards, you have a playoff performer who is one of the very best in the world. And it's a very short list of guys who you would consider taking over him. So I think this is an encouraging series win. And the scary part is that I don't think Minnesota's really hit their high gear yet.
I don't think so either. I think they're going to make the NBA Finals. They knocked on the door last year. They lost in 5 games to Dallas. I don't care who it is. If it's Denver, I think they have an even better shot to make the finals. If they face Denver, You lock it in. Minnesota's making the finals. You lock it in.
Heard it here first.
OKC is the one that
Bigger
gives me
challenge.
cause because of their defense. I
Yeah.
think their defense can really make Edwards struggle and Julius Randle. But you know what? My gut feeling is telling me that in the playoff series, Anthony Edwards versus Shea, I think Ant-Man's going to perform better. That's just my gut feeling. I think he's going to perform better than the MVP. I think he's ready for this moment. And their depth, they have more space and they have more shooters they can rely on. And they have a great defense too. They have great defensive personnel. So I really believe in the Timberwolves this year. And I think they could go all the way, not only make the NBA finals, but I think they win the NBA championship.
Yeah, I mean that's the ceiling they have, and of course you're in the conference finals. You should be in that conversation. Just looking at Ant's numbers going back to last year against Denver, gave you 28 a night, 5.5 assists, 5 rebounds, 37% from 3, 50% from the floor. It was a bit of a up and down series for him, right? He had multiple games of 40 plus points, but then he had 3 games of under 20 points. So there was just, ebbs and flows within the series. And I do think, of course, just a year older, some more playoff experience under your belt, I do expect him to be a bit more consistent. But we saw last year, that was a series that, of course, goes 7 games. But that was a, back and forth series where one team goes up 2-0, then the other team comes back, and you're kind of fighting back and forth all the way through to that 7th game. Where Karl-Anthony Towns just, really puts the Nuggets to bed. Anthony Edwards doesn't have his best game of his career, but Karl-Anthony Towns steps up in a big way and puts Denver away to win that game like 98-90. So I do think I agree with you, Joel. They have a much better chance against Denver just because, number one, so they beat them last year, and this feels like, and I think it is a worse Denver team than last season, even if they get past the Thunder, who are the favorites in a lot of people's eyes coming into the playoffs, and even as we stand right now, being up 3-2. Denver doesn't feel quite as good as they were last year, especially with all the injuries they're dealing with, with Michael Porter Jr. not being able to really shoot any type of 3 over 10 his last couple of games. And they've, dealing with a ton of injuries. Russell Westbrook's been banged up. Jamal Murray's been banged up. So not being at 100% and then going up against a team that already beat you last year, albeit in 7 games, I do think going up against them will give them a better chance than the Thunder because the Thunder are going to have a lot more defenders to be able to throw at Ant, number one, right? Like, I don't know if there's really anyone on the Thunder, or excuse me, on the Nuggets right now. They're looking like, oh shit, Ant's got to go up against Christian Brown. Like, shout out to Christian Brown, but SGA has had a pretty good series against him. I think he's shooting like 50% or so as Brown is the primary defender, compared to going up against the Thunder. And it's Alex Caruso and it's Lou Dort, and they just have defender after defender that would make life harder on Anthony Edwards. Of course, we know how great Ant is, and superstars are always going to get theirs. But going up against the Nuggets would be an easier matchup for them. But again, like John mentioned and like I mentioned earlier, getting it done in 5 is huge. Getting it done in 5 is huge just because if you do play Denver, for example, Michael Porter Jr. is not going to have extra time off. Jamal Murray, all of these guys that have dealt with injuries and have played big playoff minutes aren't going to have this extra time, and you're going to come in well rested. And the only thing I will say about that is we have seen this year, right, the Wolves in game 1 of this series that the rest of the team doesn't always have the advantage right off the rip, as the Wolves dropped the first game of this series with Steph Curry going out early. But overall, I think, as deeper you go into the playoffs, especially going up against a team that is as banged up as Denver, although their guys are playing, they're not 100%, it'd be a big advantage for them.
Don't get me wrong. The Knicks are still winning the championship.
Oh,
but let's
Wolves
just
are too.
let's just say the Wolves are, the Pacers are, OKC is.
Everyone's winning it.
Outside of Denver. Sorry, John. I'll just say this. Taking off the fan hat right now, if you're one of these West teams, Denver, OKC, Minnesota, this is the year you really want to make the finals, because I have a lot of respect for the Pacers. Just like Minnesota, they have both made the conference finals in back-to-back years. That's very impressive. Anthony Edwards, over his last 4 games against Indiana, is averaging 34 points. His last game, he had 17, but the games before that, he had 38, 44, and 37. He has dominated them pretty much. They have the similar depth as Indiana. They have a better defense. Indiana's offense is clearly better. And then with OKC, I think Indiana being the team that the Celtics or the Knicks are going to play, I think the Celtics, because of Jason Tatum not being healthy, I don't think they can get past Indiana. And what is scaring me about the Knicks is they kind of seem a little bit hurt right now. and we'll talk about it later when we talk about the Celtics next game. But Brunson takes a couple falls, kind of holding his ankle a little bit in pain. They just feel a little bit more banged up, and they have to play 42 minutes a night. That's just what they've had to do all year long, and it continues in the playoffs. We just don't have a bench, and against an Indiana team that is so fresh, that has a bench and that has that advantage, and that is going to pick up full court and is going to run in transition and is going to just run and gun you to death and tire you out against a Knicks team that has to rely on their starters, with Brunson being ahead of the snake, playing a little bit banged up, and Cat is a little bit banged up. I mean, I think the advantage is to the Pacers, and if the Pacers make the finals, I think you're OKC, you're Minnesota, you're Denver, you're saying, okay, this is the year. This is the year we got to go. This is the year we got to go, especially for OKC and Minnesota. There might not be another year where you're going to face an opponent that doesn't have a top 5 player in the world on the opposite side.
It's a valid point. And I think a big part of Minnesota's case is the fact that they have been so healthy, because earlier in the year, they had their injuries in the middle of January and February, whether it was Randall and DiVincenzo. And on the other side of the bracket, in their own bracket with Nuggets, it does, of course, feel like a lot of those teams are not the same because of the fact they're actively playing guys who are not themselves. So I would have to agree. I mean, Indiana's a great team. I don't think many people look at them as a true championship level team because of the fact Tyrese Halliburton hasn't consistently been that superstar in the playoffs. He's had moments, but when you look at the entirety of what he's been in the postseason, has been very good. He hasn't been necessarily a superstar. And I think that's what kind of gives all of those teams in the West, to me, a better case to win the finals this year.
I'm with you.
So Minnesota takes care of business. The Warriors, what's going on with them? I guess my gut feeling was right about them all along. I'll just say that.
Come on. Come on.
An older team, ceiling second round. I said it back in the video that we did when the trade first happened. I said, what's the ceiling for this team? Is the second round? That's the ceiling.
That's come on.
They're only getting older, Dells and John. They're only getting older. I mean, what are the odds that this team is going to contend at a high level next year?
I don't know if they're going to contend at a high level next year, but saying you were right about the Warriors after Steph Curry goes down.
No, I didn't say I was right. I said, it was my gut feeling. Maybe I should have stuck to it.
It was your gut feeling. If the Warriors are 100% healthy, this is a 6-7 game series.
Yeah, they could they could have won.
Like,
they could have.
I would have taken the Wolves. Don't get me wrong. I would have taken the Wolves, but there were a couple games here, that the Warriors were in, but they just didn't have enough, right? Like Jimmy Butler is maybe one of the best number 2 options in the NBA. His days of being the number 1 options are clearly over, right? Like he is not somebody that can carry you through a postseason being the number 1 scorer, and we saw that. So not having Steph Curry out there obviously is going to, dramatically change your championship odds. But I think what you say is true, because even when they made the Jimmy Butler trade, it wasn't short-sighted, but the window was obviously small, right? Like Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, both of these guys are over 35 years old. Draymond Green is up there in age, and none of these guys are getting younger. So the window to win a championship with this core really felt like this year, next year, and after that, you're probably pushing it. And it is kind of weird that this was the first time in Steph's career that he had a soft tissue or the hamstring injury. I know he dealt with a ton of ankle injuries early in his career, but just not a great sign for someone that has never really experienced this. And this is your first time at 36 years old. But Steph has been, a warrior, no pun intended. So I have no doubt that he'll be fine going to next season. But when you do start reaching this age, injuries become more common. They also become more difficult to come back from. But what this team showed us, the Warriors, was when they had Butler and Curry and Draymond, all their guys healthy, they were one of the best teams in the NBA, right? After the trade deadline, we looked at some of their numbers. They were top 10 in offensive rating, defensive rating, net rating. They were the number 1 defense. They had one of the best records in the NBA. They were, simply put, one of the best teams in basketball after they acquired Jimmy Butler. The series against Houston was a little weird. Don't think it should have gone as long as it should have, but they did take care of business. In game 1, even with Steph Curry missing basically the entire game, right? He played 12, 13 minutes. They were able to steal game 1 against Minnesota. And I think they could have easily won at least 2 more games. And that's all of a sudden 3 wins. And now you're seeing at a minimum of 7 games. And who knows, maybe the Warriors can win. So obviously it would have looked a hell of a lot different if Steph Curry was out there and playing. But it's going to be a big offseason for them because, there's certainly role players on this team, like Jonathan Kuminga, for example, who's going to be a free agent. Quentin Post was really good. Is he going to be, probably will be a key contributor going forward, but a guy like Moses Moody, like there's just going to be a lot of these younger players that they've been trying to develop, but haven't really been able to crack the code on coming up for that you have to make decisions on this offseason. And Kuminga is the biggest of the bunch. He feels like step out in terms of in the Warriors locker room. Doesn't feel like he's a guy that's going to come back, but at a minimum, we have to get something for him, right? Whether that's a sign and trade, whether that's I guess that's really the only option is a sign and trade. I don't think you could just let him walk for nothing because he is one of your more valuable assets. And I think he showed at times during this playoffs that, in the right situation, he can be a good player. So a team like John, I saw you tweeted out the Brooklyn Nets is a really good option for them. I don't know really what they're going to have to offer the Golden State Warriors, but whether that's draft picks or some lesser role players, you have to get something for him at this point. But I do think, this window for the Warriors to win was this year and next year. It's unfortunate Steph Curry gets hurt, but you have to go into next season feeling like, listen, when we had all of our guys out there, we were as good as the Thunder. We were as good as Boston. We were as good as Cleveland. We were up there with all of the best teams in the NBA, even though it was for a small window. So, of course, it's a shitty way to go out. Steph goes down. You lose in 5 games. But there was multiple times in this series that Steph Curry's out there, you could probably win that game. And, you're really fighting with Minnesota that we're looking at as a championship level team.
Absolutely. I feel like this series would have looked different if the Warriors are healthy. Because, of course, not only you missed Steph outside of game 1, but Jimmy Butler re-aggravated that pelvic injury, which basically inhibited him for the entirety of this postseason after game 2 versus the Rockets. And we saw in that playing game versus Memphis just how good Jimmy can still be at this age. Granted, you do wonder another year of maybe wear and more injuries if he can still get to that level as consistently. But even still, I feel like coming this all season, the Warriors should feel a lot better about the fact that they have a number 2. And Steph and Draymond this year were really good still. So I think the first priority would kind of be consolidating some of the young talent like Kuminga who are extension eligible and really don't fit this team. Maybe I think the dream scenario is you can turn Jonathan Kuminga into Cam Johnson, and then you basically upgrade off Buddy Hield with a younger version, and then you move into next year and you really hope one of Brandon Podziemski or Moses Moody, if he's still there, do take a step forward. And you can hopefully get a little bit of development from guys on Trace Jackson Davis. But I don't necessarily think that you're right, Joel, about this series because it could have looked a lot different to me. I think it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, it comes down to health. And I think when you look at the Warriors, they're a very good team, no doubt about it. But you have to highlight the fact that much like the Cavs, this is a group of guys that have dealt with injuries. And in their case, with Golden State's, it's the fact that your 3 best players are all on the wrong side of 30 years old. And I think that is kind of what kind of transpired to where we're at right now.
If it didn't happen this year, it's not going to happen next year. That's what I have to say about Golden State. This was their window.
What if Steph Curry's healthy next year? They don't have a better chance than this year?
He's 37.
I know, but I mean, he was still great. Like, he wasn't a bum.
Yeah, but he's regressing.
Okay, but if you had Steph Curry, like, they lost game 3 by 5 points. They were going to the fourth quarter winning. They lost game 4 by 7 points. This was a game like, we're not going to sit here and act like the Wolves won every game by 20 points. Like, this was a real series, even with Steph Curry out, Jimmy Butler not 100%. He was dealing with an illness last game. Like, this was still a series with their best player out.
You cited game 3?
Game 3. The Wolves won 102-97. They outscored the Warriors by 9 points in the fourth.
Game 4 and game 5, I thought the Wolves pretty much dominated them in stretches when they needed to. I thought they handled business. Yeah, they kept it close. They kept it close, but
they weren't like, it wasn't a 25-point game going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, but you vividly saw in stretches the Wolves just said, all right, now we got to turn it up. And they kicked their ass once they decided that.
No, absolutely. I mean, like, look at some of these damn lineups the Warriors putting out there. Like, I hope they did. We think they're championship contenders. They should be doing that.
I'm looking at their cap roll right now. The cap roll or team payroll or whatever. Steph Curry, $59 million, 37 years old. Jimmy Butler, $54 million, 35 years old. Next year, I mean, the year after that, in 26 and 27, he gets paid $56 million, and Steph jumps up to $62 million. Draymond's at $25 million, Moody's at $11 million, Buddy's at $9 million. And then you have team options on Podziemski, Santos, and Post, and they have Trace Jackson Davis. They're, as is right now where we stand, they're expected to have a projected cap space of minus $18 million. Garrett Payne II's a free agent. Kevon Looney, Kuminga is a free agent as well. so he can go wherever he wants. The room for improvement for this roster, there aren't a lot of options. The first round pick that they gave up to Miami, they don't have it. This year's first round pick, they gave it up to go get Jimmy Butler. They have their picks for the future, but they have already shown us that they're not willing to really tap into that asset pool to help the immediate future. Maybe they do. Maybe they just say, we're just going to try to maximize this Steph window as much as we can. But I look at the trade pieces they have. Moody's 11 million salary with Buddy Hield's 9 million gets you a 20 million player. How many players at that market are you going to find that are going to change things for the Warriors from a number standpoint where they're just significantly better? I just think that Steph, while still having moments of brilliance, and there's no doubt that he can still play at a very high level, each year he is going to be regressing at this point in time. So is Jimmy Butler, and so is Draymond Green. I just feel like this year they had a real chance. And what I said earlier about my gut feeling, this team was great when they were healthy, and they had a legitimate chance to make the finals, I think, if everything clicked. But everything didn't click. Things went wrong for them. Jimmy got hurt in the first round. Steph got hurt in the second round in game one. And we're seeing this team's age. I think the NBA, even though we love to market these older stars as still people that are a huge part of the league, the NBA is a young man's game. Teams that usually make deep playoff runs are younger teams or teams that are between the ages of 26 to really 32. But after that, the numbers start to diminish a lot. So a credit to the Warriors. I mean, they have given Steph at least a glimmer of hope that there is a potential chance if all the pieces fall the right way, they can contend, but it is still a long shot. And if it wasn't this year, I just have a hard time believing they're going to be any better next year, make a conference finals or NBA finals.
It's true. I feel like at the end of the day, it's better than where they're at 6 months ago. I think it's a
Absolutely.
win if they're able to be a team that can get back here next year. And one last thing that I kind of didn't mention, which is important, is that Jonathan Kuminga is going to be a restricted free agent. So if a rebuilding team, a lot of cap space, like Nets want to sign him, they can do so outright, and then the Warriors would have to
match it.
or they lose him. Because I don't think a team like the Nets would have to make a sign trade to sign Kuminga. They could outright. So I think
Kuminga's a
that's
good
going to be a
player.
very
He's a good player.
He's a player at a premium position with a ton of physical tools that with a little bit of patience and opportunity can grow into a really damn good player.
So if they
I
keep
definitely think
him
there's a lot of value there.
and they rely on him next year in a bigger role, then maybe I could see something. But Steve Kerr is just so weird with the lineups, man. And Kuminga showed once Steph went out and he had to really tap into Kuminga more. He proved himself and he proved he can be valuable. So I think that he increased his trade value. And let's see if they get something noteworthy for him. And maybe that could change things. But ultimately, I just have a hard time believing that a core with 3 players that are 35, soon to be 36 and older, win it. It's just hard.
Yeah. No, I'm not sitting here and be like the Warriors going to be like my top 3 favorites to win the title next year by any means, right? But I do think Kuminga's tough because the way I see it, he probably has more value to another team like the Brooklyn Nets than he just does to this Warriors team, right? Like there's a reason why once Steph Curry went out and your entire offense has to change. That's when we saw Kuminga really flourish, right? When he's able to kind of play one-on-one more like just, can I beat you with my physical tools? Can I just get by you rather than playing within the flow of this Warriors offense, which he has struggled with, right? Like we even seen there's moments in this series that there's like an extra pass there. There's a guy cutting that Kuminga's just not seen right now. He's a super young player, but to be able to play consistent minutes on this team, to be a starter on this team, those are the things you're going to have to do for Steve Kerr. And that's the things you're going to have to do when you have Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler out there who are some of the smartest players in the league. And Kuminga's just not at that level yet. So even if he stays with the Warriors, he really has to make an upgrade like mentally and just from a basketball IQ perspective, I think, than anything. Because you said it, John, like physical tools are there. Like there's nothing, it's not like Kuminga's too small or he's not quick enough or fast enough. Like all the athletic tools you could possibly want are there for Kuminga. It's just, this is an offensive system that if you're not connected with the rest of the team, it's going to be really hard to find consistent minutes.
Yeah.
over the last 4 games, 26 points in game 5, 23 points in game 4, 30 points in game 3, 18 points in game 2 for Kuminga. He made himself
Talent's there.
money. He made himself money with these last couple
Absolutely.
of games. Some team, Danny Ainge is watching from Utah and saying,
Not
"Yeah,
bad.
I might throw 20 million at this."
Not bad.
God.
Who
Stay
gets
away
a
from
who
Utah,
gets a bigger
Kuminga.
contract, Ty Jerome or Kuminga?
What team am I?
Just
Oh, you said just who gets the bigger
just
contract in general?
predicting who's getting the bigger
Oh, I
contract.
think Kuminga will get a bigger contract.
Especially in restricted free agency, I feel like there's a lot of teams that are going to vie for him because of his age and upside. So I would also say Kuminga.
It is crazy how a regular season stretch of basketball gets diminished, and a guy who didn't play
I don't agree
of
with
a
that.
4-game stretch is
Well, it's
just
just-
going to get
I don't
more.
agree.
Upside.
Kuminga was the 7th overall pick in 2021. He went to a
Oh,
team
yeah.
trying to win now. I think expectations are different. Jerome was awesome this year,
Yeah.
and he should get paid a lot of money. We saw in the first round just how good he can be. But the league's going to value Kuminga more because of his age, positional value, and upside. I think
And because
those
of
are
how he
three
played
big
in the
things.
playoffs. If Ty Jerome had the last 4 games that Kuminga had, he's getting a bag this summer.
But does
I think he's still
Ty
getting paid either
Jerome-
way.
No,
Does he become a $30 million player if he plays well in the playoffs? I don't think so.
he low key becomes like a 20 mil guy.
Yeah, but like
Jerome?
even still, he still feels like a guy that's like, I don't know, 10 to 13, right? Like Kuminga is going to get paid because teams are going to look at him and be like, if we tap into what he has, he could be an all-star. Like he could be a guy that is a number 3 option on a championship team one day if you're the Brooklyn Nets. For Ty Jerome, you're getting paid as like, you're going to be the best 6th man in the NBA. It's just 2 different expectations.
Yeah, if you're the Hornets, you say, "Fuck Cooper Flag. I got Jonathan Kuminga at home."
That's nuts.
Yeah, that's what you say. You know, it's the 4th overall pick. I didn't win the sweepstakes, but hey, I got Kuminga. I'm gonna throw him some money. Let's just have this Hornets team with LaMelo and Miller and Edgecombe and Kuminga all on the same roster. Just a bunch of athletes. Let's just do it. Let's go.
Here we go.
It's starting. Let's go. So we have 478 live viewers right now. Make sure you guys drop a like button and you guys subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And also, if you want to support the podcast further, use code PAS on Prize Picks. Prize Picks, you can make picks every single night. They have some great promotions. Taco Tuesday, they have discounted picks as well. So if you want to go use it and support the podcast while you're at it, we'd really appreciate it because Prize Picks does a lot for us and helping us pay the bills around here. And if you want to support in a different way, sometimes I get people that comment and say, how can I support past a comment or a like or a subscription to the channel? How can I support in more ways? Going to Prize Picks and using code PAS is a fantastic way to support. And I can see how many of you guys support because every prospect sends me a little graphic of how many clicks and how many people have made deposits. And let me tell you, as of recently, I'm disappointed in you guys. So go out there on Prize Picks and please use code PAS. Now, Mr. Dels, maybe they were right about first option Jaylen Brown. Maybe we were wrong. John, the assists were off the chain today. Derek White. I mean, number one, I'll say we got outplayed. The referees didn't give us much of a chance in this game either way. Quick fouls on Cat. Like what, 4 or 5 fouls in a 9-minute stretch on Brunson?
Karl-Anthony Towns is the best player in terms of, not fouling people.
I mean, ridiculousness. I will say this. The Knicks really struggled in containing paint pressure than Derek White. I thought the dribble drive penetration from Boston's guards was just something that we cannot contain. And it made me feel a little bit queasy about a potential Indiana series where that is their bread and butter. And I didn't feel that great about it. But Boston deserved this win on at home, fresh off of Tatum's injury, where I feel like the whole team is motivated and trying to get this win for JT. They went out and did it. They shot 47% from 3, and they deserve this. But Dels, do you think that they're going to shock the Knicks? Do you think they're coming back down 3-1 and winning this series?
Listen, man, I'm riding with Boston till the wheels fall off. If they get past New York, I'm taking them to beat Indiana. If they get past Indiana, I'm taking them to win the whole damn finals. That's just, can't ask me that question. But I thought it was a super inspirational performance from the Celtics, just because, of course, all the news with Jason Tatum. He posted the thing on Instagram today. They said that He sent a message to the team, just a really inspired performance. This is a close game going into halftime as well, right? It's not like Boston just end of the first quarter, they're up 20 points. Like, we've seen, was that game 4 or game 3? This was a close game at halftime. Then the third quarter, they were really able to put their foot on the gas. I think the number one guy you got to point at, and Jaylen Brown obviously was great. Derek White was great. Luke Cornett. I mean, Luke Cornett was out of this world good. I remember saying a couple months ago, Cornette's going to have a game or a moment in these playoffs where everyone's going to be like, holy shit, Luke Cornett's really good. Been saying all year he's the best third big in basketball, and he stepped up in a big way because Porzingis at this point is unplayable. I think he gets like one stint in the first quarter of game 6. If he has something, you play him. If not, I think he goes to the bench. He doesn't play. Mazzulla said after the game that he couldn't breathe in the second half. He's been dealing with this illness that the team says they know what it is, but they can't cure it or they can't medicate him. I don't know. It's weird. He has this illness that, causes shortness of breath, and his like conditioning and physicality just kind of gets sapped. His energy gets sapped is the words they use, but really unfortunate for Porzingis. But in that unfortunate news, Cornette has made himself a little bit of change in this game. 7 blocks, got some big rebounds, did a lot better job just containing Mitchell Robinson on the glass here as well. Had a nice alley-oop in that fourth quarter that kind of sealed the game. Cornette was everywhere. He was a plus 20 in 26 minutes. Porzingis, a minus 12 in 12 minutes and a 25-point win kind of tells you all you have to know about how bad Porzingis was. But a couple of the other guys just want to shout out. Jaylen Brown, 26 points, 12 assists, playoff career high, gives you 8 rebounds as well. Super efficient, 9 for 17, 3 for 5 from 3, only 2 turnovers. He was everything you needed him to be in this game, right? With Jason Tatum out, it's not just Jaylen Brown has to be the same player. He has to change his game a bit and become like the true number one option, not just as a scorer, but also as a facilitator. Because with Tatum off the court, you're losing your best playmaker, and you need someone to step up in that role. And Jaylen Brown has shown in flashes with Tatum out that he can be a guy that gets 6 to 7 assists a game. I don't know if 12 is realistic every single night, but someone that his playmaking can get better when Tatum's out. He's not the perfect playmaker, but he's someone that has shown in those, limited times that if Tatum's out, I could run this offense and we could still be efficient. Derek White started off again super hot from 3. Payne Pritchard was phenomenal in this game. And I'm just happy Boston didn't go out in some sorry-ass fashion, getting blown out by 20 points at home, because they easily could have. And I think a lot of people have just been like, yeah, like Tatum goes down, he tears his Achilles. That's heartbreaking. I'm not surprised that, this game, no one shows up and there's no energy. But the fact that they defended home court, which they've struggled with, of course, lost the 2 games at home to start off the series, is a positive sign. And now you go on the road. They've been an historic road team the last 3 years. And all the pressure's on New York. All the pressure is going to be on New York in MSG, a chance to advance to your first ECF in 25 years. All the pressure is going to be on New York. The Celtics have been sensational on the road, like I said. I'm excited for game 6, man. I'm excited to see if they can replicate this performance. They shot really well again from 3. The offense flowed well. And I think the biggest decision that Mazzulla is going to have to make is just, do you put Cornette in the starting lineup? Because I don't think you could realistically start with Porzingis. I don't want to get off to a slow start in game 6 and let this MSG crowd get into it. I want to start off the game, 8-2 Celtics, and they have to climb their way back into it, and you have to get the crowd out of it because they're going to be buzzing the entire time. So I would be starting Cornette, off rip. And once you hit the 6-7 minute mark, whatever it is, see what Porzingis can give you. If he has some more energy, he can't hit a shot to save his life right now, unfortunately, even though the defense has gotten a bit better. If he has anything they can give you, great. If not, sit him on the bench. It's Cornette. Maybe you give Kata some minutes. Maybe Torrey Craig gets a couple of minutes. But right now, Porzingis is just, unfortunately, not playable. He's been getting picked apart, with switches onto Brunson. And offensively, he's just a black hole right now.
Yeah, I would kind of agree with that sentiment. It's tough because Cornette's been so good. I would kind of like to start the game with him in that double big lineup. I want to start off by saying shout out to Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson, because despite this loss to the Knicks, those 2 guys laid it all on the line today. And I felt like the Knicks almost wasted a great performance by Mitch. Goes 6 of 6 in the 3-throw line. And on top of that, he was an absolute stud on the boards. I felt like every defensive rebound he was getting. And then Josh Hart was ball in transition. In the first half, he gets clocked in the side of the eye. I believe it was by Luke Cornett. Yeah. And the picture of him gushing blood was kind of badass. I thought it was pretty crazy. Comes right back into the game. And he comes and has one of his best games this postseason. This is testament to his will, and I think those two guys were awesome today. But unfortunately for the Knicks, no one else in the starting lineup played well. This was kind of a game from hell from OG Anunoby, and the second half it really manifested with the Knicks going 10 of 34 from the field. That's 29%, and 4 of 13 from three. Where on the other side, I mean, everybody knew, and I'm going to steal a quote here from Will Hardy. Everybody knew that Derek White should not be left open except the few players that are on the Knicks today because he was catching fire. 14 points in the first quarter, 13 in the third quarter. He came out and just brought an instant spark for this Boston team from three where he could not miss. And then throughout the game, I thought it was a great display of what Jaylen Brown's capable of as a playmaker. He was making a lot of good dishes, especially getting dribble penetration and just finding their bigs. And I think Luke Cornett had, like you highlighted, Dale, was an insane game. I was joking with my friends watching the game that like he's got 1 million blocks today. It's got to be a career high. He surely did get 7 on the day. I felt like for Boston, it was kind of an inspiring win. You lose Tatum for not only this season, but it changes kind of the future outlook of this team moving into next year as well. I think it's a very emotional thing. And I thought it was really a testament to this team's character that they were able to step up today and play as well as they did on both ends of the floor. And I think really Jaylen Brown today should get a lot of credit for the way that he was able to step up.
Luke Cornett didn't only play well as a basketball player, he showed off his MMA skills too with that elbow he had on Josh Hart. You know, surprised he didn't get ejected for that. Honestly, he should have been ejected
basketball,
for that.
I hate to say it.
You got ejected, we probably lose this game.
Should have been ejected. So I feel like the Celtics kind of just flexed their muscles a little bit. We're still a great team we have a great supporting cast, and it's not just relying on one guy, which I think we all kind of knew already. You know, even though Tatum obviously adds to this team and the ceiling of it, but this team is overall, it's just a great team. And in games without Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown averages 28, 7, and 4, and Derek White averages 18, 4, and 6. They're still getting all-star caliber play from two players, and if Porzingis was healthy in this series and he was playing like himself, it would have been 3 all-star players. The Celtics are 15-3 without Tatum over the last 2 years, and they have a +8 net rating with him off the floor this season. The Celtics are still a pretty damn good team without Tatum, and it's going to be a tough challenge to beat them. And I think that in the games that the Knicks have won, Boston's offense, I think it's just an easy offense to guard when they're settling. And I think there's a lot of moments where they have settled in this series. In game 1, they had 17 isolation possessions. In game 2, they had 9. They blew the Knicks out. Well, no, they lost. My bad. In the fourth quarter, but they were blowing them out just like in game 1. In game 3, 15 isolation possessions. In game 4, 14 isolation possessions. In game 5, 6 isolation possessions. Shout out to Carson from Nerd Sesh for these numbers. 6 isolation possessions in game 5. They're moving the ball much better. The ball isn't stopping, and they're making the Knicks pay for bad rotations and bad defense. And if they play that way, it's going to be very hard for the Knicks to overcome that, and they're going to have to win track meets with them and just outscore them and have an elite offensive game. In the fourth quarter, with Brunson in foul trouble and Cat in foul trouble, Mikal and OG were the ones that needed to step up, and they didn't play well. So you can't have that. And I think we're going to win next game. It's going to be Knicks in 6, but the Knicks need an effort from all of their guys. This kind of reminds me of, not to the same degree, but Golden State when in 2019 Kevin Durant got hurt at the end of game 5 at the end of the third quarter. So overall, the Warriors played 1 game and a quarter without KD. The Warriors ended up winning that game that KD went out. And then in game 6, it was a completely different offense. KD stagnated their offense so much, and it was so much ISO, and the Rockets lived with that. The Rockets lived with the one-on-one defense on KD. Just let him shoot mid-range shots all day. He's going to kill us, but it's better than guarding all these different actions that Warriors are doing. Then they played the Warriors without KD, and it's the same Warriors team that the next round against the Blazers swept them in the conference finals, and it was just a whole different style of offense they had to guard. You're now guarding an offense that is featuring Steph and Clay and Draymond and their movement, and it just felt like 2016 Golden State. And the Rockets lost that game on the back of Steph just having a crazy second half in Game 6. So what I wonder is just how the Knicks are going to change to what the Celtics are changing stylistically, because clearly it's a difference. And if the Knicks aren't prepared, I'm worried if they lose Game 6. If they lose Game 6, I'm starting to shit my pants a little bit about going back to Boston and winning a Game 7.
That's a tough place to play. Couple things I just want to point out. This is another game where Boston closed the third quarter well. They were up 15 points with a couple minutes left in that third quarter. And we saw in those first couple of games, right, that the Knicks go on these end of quarter runs that cut it to 12 points, 9 points, and they have the momentum going into the fourth. Though Boston did a good job just defending. Didn't score, I think, once they went up 15, but defended well. So the Knicks couldn't cut into that lead and went up into the fourth with the fourth quarter, went into the fourth with a 15-point lead. Then they hit a couple shots to start the fourth. They ballooned it up to 20 or so points. The Knicks didn't really have a chance after that. So I think that was just something we've seen frequently in the series is in the 2 wins that Boston does have, they've closed the third quarter well, and the Knicks have had chances to, cut the lead from whatever it is, 15 in this game to maybe 9 points. I can't remember the top of my head in that fourth game, but Celtics were up 20 or something. And again, the Knicks could have cut the lead to 14, say, and go into the fourth quarter with momentum. But both time Boston was able to stop that. And of course, that obviously is a big reason why they won. I think you make a good point when it comes to just Boston stagnation at times. And I think 2 different things. Number one, Porzingis plays a big role into that, right? Porzingis, you see constantly, I mean, not as much in this game because he only played 12 minutes, but throughout this series, there are times where the Celtics are looking for a switch onto Porzingis. He has a smaller guy on him, and Porzingis takes 6 or 7 seconds to find positioning. They're kind of holding the ball. They're trying to get the entry pass in, and they can't really figure it out. Eventually, they get it to Porzingis. There's 7 seconds on the shot clock. He's doing his, turnaround jab, trying to find a shot, and he puts up just a really poor contested mid-range 2. And he hasn't been able to hit that at all throughout these playoffs, so it becomes even a worse shot. Wouldn't be a good shot if even he was more consistent like he was in the regular season. But Porzingis is a big part of that. And of course, when we saw Cornette get in, when he gets the ball, he's looking to pass it. He's looking to either do a dribble handoff, pass the ball, go set a screen. It's just a lot quicker decisions and just plays better in the flow of offense. And I also think Jaylen Brown as a number 1 versus number 2 is interesting because when Tatum's on the court, we see how these guys play with each other, right? It is a lot of like your turn, my turn when it comes to the Jays, right? They're not like Malone and Stockton, right? I'm not going to sit here and be like they're the perfect pairing with each other, right? It is a lot of my turn, your turn when it comes to the Jays. So with Tatum on the court, when Brown has the ball, I feel like there's times where he can just get tunnel vision and be like, damn, like I haven't touched the ball in a couple possessions. I got the rock right now. Maybe I have a switch on me. I want to find my shot kind of no matter what. And right, he has improved as a playmaker, but you do see times throughout the game where it's just Jaylen Brown's the ball top of the key. There's 14 seconds and he's just trying to go one-on-one. With Tatum out, he's now the number 1 in this offense. So there's not as much maybe pressure on him to feel like I haven't touched a ball in 3 or 4 possessions because he's going to touch a ball in every possession. He's going to be the guy initiating offense on a lot of these possessions. So the fact that he doesn't just have that, I think, over his head is just he just plays in the offense better and it just flows better because he doesn't feel like I need to go get my bucket now because who knows, maybe I don't see the ball for the next couple of possessions. So I think those 2 things play a factor. And that's why one of the biggest reasons why I think they should start with Cornette because the offense has just been better and the defense has been better and the rebound has been better. Porzingis has just been such a negative and it hurts my heart because he loves Boston so much. And when he's playing well and he's healthy, the energy that he gives the fan base is really second to none. But unfortunately, unless something turns around quick for him, it's going to be a really poor ending to his Boston tenure.
It's valid. I feel like the last thing, which really goes unnoticed, a little bit overlooked, is that Jaylen Brown defensively today was giving Jalen Brunson, all those players in the Knicks, a very tough time. And for the Knicks to take care of business at home in Game 6, I think they just got to do a better job of containing the 3-point shooters, especially Derek White. I think along with his help defense, that's what he does at a superb level. And then on top of that, I really just think that though they shot 40% for the entire game today, they're red hot in the first half, they're piss poor in the second. They need to get more of Karl Anthony Towns. They need that version of him they got in Game 4 inside because today he was really inefficient around the rim and it felt like he could not get anything going inside. And it was a total opposite and a total difference between games 4 and 5. So if they get that version of Cat, which is him consistently putting pressure in the paint, taking over inside, I think that's where we'll see this series end 6.
We have some super chats, and I saw a message from Santos that said he was going to head out. Have a good night and stay safe. Shout out to Santos for
Warriors
that.
and 9, Santos.
Sean Courtney goes, shout out to y'all for staying up and providing us with this content. Unfortunately, I got to go to work in the morning, so we'll be watching this then.
Shout out to you, Sean.
Shout out to you, Sean Courtney. Hopefully you make it this far and you see that we have your name on the screen. Shout out to Sean Courtney. Jay Wash goes, would this be considered a failure of a season for the Knicks if they blow a 3-1 lead to a Celtics team? Missing KP and Tatum to injury. Shout out, pick a side. Nobody believed in us before the series.
Okay, but with the information you have now, if they were in theory to blow a 3-1 series, yes, it would
Joel,
be a major
you
disappointment.
just put $200 on the Knicks to win the finals.
A lot of money.
Oh, man. All right.
What's your answer, though, realistically?
Well, yeah, it's a failure. I think it's an epic collapse if they blow a 3-1 lead.
I'm with you.
Yaya Jallo goes, what do you guys think of Cooper Flag in the ceiling will be in the NBA? Plus, what do you guys think of his comp is? I think his ceiling is a consistent all-NBA player. I like the defensive flashes of Andre Kirilenko and the offensive skill set of like a version of Scotty Barnes that can kind of hit a jump shot. I think that's kind of where I'm at.
I think my favorite comps for him would be Jason Tatum and Scottie Pippen, and that's very high praise for a prospect coming out. I think his floor is that high because he's such a great off-ball player and has such a high feel for the game. And as a passer, I think it's comparable to the very best wing players we've ever seen. And I think that's what reminds me a lot of those two guys. And one of them is the greatest Robin of all time, and obviously one of the greatest players ever.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a Cooper Flag guy for years. I'm going to be following him to Dallas. I'm going to be rooting for the Mavericks this year. Cooper Flag is maybe my favorite prospect of all time. You know, he's someone that looks up to Jason Tatum. He's a Boston Celtic fan, and his game reminds me a lot of Jason Tatum. This is a guy that doesn't have a lot of flaws right now. Two-way player. He could score. He could defend. He could facilitate. There's not much flaws you could poke in this game. He's got size. He's big. I mean, I love me some Cooper Flag.
He should. I mean, you damn should. And I want to say there's a little bit of LeBron in there. And the way
okay, so he's a mixture of LeBron, Scottie Pippen, and Tatum.
No, yeah, because and I'm not
shades of LeBron, Pippen, Tatum.
He reclassified a year early when he should realistically be coming out of high school today. He should have been graduating high school now. And for him to be as good and for him to have grown as much as he did in his freshman year at Duke while being in complete control of the game, looking like a 5-year college player because he was the best playmaker at his position in college basketball. I think that's a testament to a feel for the game and understanding that reminds me of LeBron coming out of high school. Don't think he's the same prospect, but the intangibles, his processing, I think that's very similar.
So is his ceiling best in the world?
It could be. It definitely could be. I'm not going to say that for sure because you can say with a lot of guys, you say about 5 to almost 10 guys in the NBA. But, I mean, his floor to me is going to be an all-NBA player.
You know, John, when it comes to top-end prospects, doesn't get any better, man.
I don't know what – this is what irritates me. You make it seem as if I blow smoke up the ass of every single prospect. I don't necessarily do that. Sometimes I do. I've had some misses. But when you watch Cooper Flag, I feel like it's very in front of you. You're not going to really miss it. It's hard to disagree with that.
It's just hard for me to buy fully into what you're selling me when you mentioned LeBron, Tatum, and Pippen. I've heard the Pippen comp, though. I heard it today earlier, actually.
What can't you buy about that? There's parts of all 3 of their games in there.
No, I don't think there's any. I don't think there's no LeBron.
Yes,
I don't see
as a passer. Absolutely,
absolutely not. LeBron is an elite level passer.
Have you watched Cooper Flag?
Cooper Flag is not on the level of LeBron, bro. As a prospect from passing the ball,
it's LeBron coming to high school versus Cooper Flag coming to college. As passers, there's a similarity there for their position, their size.
No,
then you haven't watched Cooper Flag.
Yes, I have. I haven't watched Cooper Flag because I don't think he's a LeBron level passing prospect.
I'm not saying that he's LeBron directly, but there's shades of that, absolutely, because
Because he's big and he can pass and he's a plus playmaker. There's shades of LeBron.
No. You clearly haven't watched enough of him because as a
He's more
yes,
Franz
there's a
Wagner
lot
as a
of that.
passer than LeBron.
What's that?
He's more Franz Wagner as a passer than LeBron.
No.
Is he as good of a passing prospect as Ben Simmons?
I think he's better because he's going to command a lot more. He's going to command a lot more attention with his ability to score from all three levels.
We just forget about Ben Simmons, dude, and how gifted of a passing prospect he was.
Yeah, I agree, but there's limitations to it where he wasn't able to amplify that because he didn't really have to respect him outside 14 feet.
It's just I look at you blow smoke up these prospects' ass, and I think about Scoot Henderson. That's all I think about.
Oh my God!
Right? Listen, that's what I think about in this very moment. Because I remember when you said trade him for Jaylen Brown.
That was a take I had for the Celtics underneath the second apron. So
listen, hey, I hope you're right about Cooper Flag. I really do. But the floor being an all NBA player, like the absolute floor for him being an all NBA player.
I think a top 15 players this floor.
That's not crazy.
I think he's that good.
Though
the
worst thing he'll be is an all NBA player.
Joel, he should have been in high school this year.
I understand that.
Rapidly. And when you watch how good he was, I think I think the Ben Simmons thing is interesting because as a pure passer, you go with Simmons, but because of how much you have to respect Flag as a shooter, he's a good shooter, and he is a way better scorer, that amplifies his passing to be a better playmaker. Don't know if he's necessarily the better passer in that of itself, that one skill, but I think in the NBA, it's going to be really magnified. And when I watched him in the second half of this year, I felt like his feel for the game was similar to LeBron. That's what I was trying to say.
And I would argue that what amplified Ben Simmons' playmaking is his handle. And Cooper Flag doesn't have the handle of Ben Simmons. I'd argue that's the biggest weakness in his game, the handle.
I think that's fair. And part of what he's able to do so well is playing off the ball. And I think that kind of shades that a lot.
All right. Let's see. I like Cooper Flag. Hey, I'm Dallas FC right now. Are you Dallas FC? Are you going to Dallas?
Me?
Yes.
I've told y'all for a year. I'm wherever Flag is.
Free Hole of 33 goes, Jimmy still ringless. I'm out of sleep like a baby.
What fan do you think this guy is that he's just hating on Jimmy?
Either a Heat fan that's
Fair.
bitter feelings, or I don't know. Maybe a Celtics fan.
Because I don't feel any way about Jimmy at this point as a Celtic fan. You know, like if he won, I wouldn't have been like, oh my God, how did he win a ring? You know, I've been like, okay.
Yeah. So Bibbs donated $1, then sent $2. Shout out to Bibbs.
So,
If refs don't gawk the Knicks, do Pistons make ECF?
oh Christ. No.
Yeah, be serious.
I don't think
Be
so.
serious. So I'm looking at the chat. I'm looking at the chat. There's some defenders of you, John. Rogers. I see it too, John, if he works on it. I like it. We have some.
He's
other
saying he
ones
could
too.
be a LeBron level passer if he works on his passing. Is that what he's saying?
Scooter is football says he's saying because his game altogether like Bron.
Yeah, he's an all around prospect. I get that.
This is a good question. Ooh, gosh. Were you guys even alive when LeBron graduated high school?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I was like 5, but
I was alive, but I wasn't there for it, where I wasn't evaluating him as a prospect.
I was born the same month. So
It was for the same month. John Chill.
No, I'm good.
Better passer than Ben Simmons is wild. John, come on, bro. John, come on. You don't always have to jump off the porch with the young guys. He likes the young prospects. He said he just turned 18. I get it.
I'm just surprised that people are this low on Cooper Flag.
It's not low.
John, nobody's low on Cooper Flag.
You don't see shades of LeBron. I can't believe it.
That's come on.
You're misconstruing what I said. I said his feel for the game similar to LeBron.
We heard you.
At that age.
Sure.
That's what I said, and I stand on that. I think we'll see it.
John, let's go. So they should win a championship year one, Dallas, if they're healthy.
You're a funny guy.
They should make the conference finals. I'm hoping.
I think they got a chance to contend, but
I think so too. For sure. Yeah. All right, that's gonna do it for us. Thank you guys for watching. If you're on the stream right now, 503 people. Make sure you guys drop a like. And if you want to support the podcast further, go to PrizePicks, use code PAS. You play $5, you get $50. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.